Today, the country is celebrating the 10 years of Make in India scheme, where there has been an impetus laid on investment, skill development, creation of jobs and world-class manufacturing facilities. Let's start our conversation with my panelists who are joining me and understand the report card, what has been done, what was achievable in the last 10 years and what should be the roadmap for the future 10 years. Dr. Sharat Kohli, here we have a list of achievements that the government has shared on the anniversary of the 10 years of Make in India campaign. How do you view these achievements? Are they enough? Are they underwhelming? And how do we move forward from here?
Good evening, Megha. Good evening to my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. Well, the achievements are noticeable. There's no doubt about it. We've come a long way from being 2014 to being laggards on manufacturing. There was only China, and China, being world's factory. But I think the downfall of China has sort of benefited, but that doesn't take away all the good things, all the reforms done by this government over the last decade. And I think the most noticeable things, if you ask me, Megha, if you go by the numbers, simply the numbers, the most noticeable has been for me, apart from defense, which is now close to touching about $3 billion, we were importing even nuts and bolts. For the guns, for the tanks, for the missiles, for everything. Today we are doing BrahMos, we are doing Tejas, and we've hit about almost $3 billion of defense. I mean, we could not imagine 10 years ago that we would be exporting, defense products. We are exporting worth $3 billion. But the most noticeable as a number for me, Megha, has been mobile phones. If you look at the numbers of mobile phones, 7,500% increase in mobile phone manufacturing in India. That is absolutely astounding, if you ask me, from being, in 2014, 1,556 crores. And we are today at 2 lakh crores. 99% of the mobiles that we people use, including the iPhones and the Samsungs, are being manufactured in the country. I think that is a landmark achievement, if you ask me. It's absolutely landmark. Talk of any sector, renewable energy. We are today the 4th largest in renewable energy, be it solar, be it wind, be it anything connected with renewable energy. Electric vehicles. I mean, we are doing 3 billion. We were literally zero on electric vehicles. Today, $3 billion worth of electric vehicles being manufactured in India, I think is a classic example. And I remember, Prime Minister, every time he used to do Man Ki Baat, he used to speak about so many things. And one of the things he spoke about was toys. And these toys, 240% increase in toys. I mean, when it came to toys, it meant China, all those plastic, harmful, toxic toys being imported from China. And today, I think the children of the country have participated in this manufacturing success, I would say, where the toys have today been 240% growth in terms of the total size of the toy industry in India. And these are being developed indigenously. They are not being imported anymore. So I think the growth has been phenomenal. We were
absolutely, yes.
As a manufacturing sector, Megha, 13%. One last data, which is very important. From that 13%, we have moved up to 17%. Now, I personally feel this is still work in progress, because 17% for a size of 140 crore plus population, 17% contribution of manufacturing is far too less. So there's a lot to be done. I would love to speak about the challenges, Megha, as we move forward. I'm sure there are other panelists in the waiting.
Right, absolutely. Thank you for giving us that synopsis, breaking down the numbers. Let me take it specifically field by field. And Wing Commander Sudhakaran on the telecast with me, particularly when we talk about defense manufacturing and exports that have happened, and there has been a 21 times increase in the number of defense exports that the country witnessed in the last 10 years. How has this been made successful? What are the steps to be followed here on? Of course, there's a long way to go, but are we moving in the right trajectory?
Megha, thanks for having me here. I always used to say one thing, that I don't doubt the intent. The niyat of the government is in its place. Niti is where the problem is. Niti needs to be, there is a lot that needs to be desired. We need to achieve a lot. The reason why I say is, yes, when it comes to numbers we seem to be, doing fantastically well. But why? Because we were down in single digits, almost next to zero. It is, mind you that if we are talking about very high numbers in defense manufacturing, it was, just that it was zilch. That's where we are growing. So as far as the policies initially, in terms of, announcing Make in India, the enthusiasm with which it was announced, all that is in its place. But 10 years down the line, when I now look at, I see that, we had a star batsman. See, the problem with Modi is our expectations are very, very high. We can't compare him with any other average politician. In fact, I find him as one of the best that we had in the last 1,000 years who have led this country, not even, after independence. But if you, give him that kind of a privilege or put him in that kind of a stature, please understand, I expect century out of him every time he takes his bat and comes and takes his guard. That's the problem that I have with Modi, because he's not delivered on that front. He's not scored that century every time that he has come to bat, because it's not he who has let us down. It's his bureaucrats that has let us down. The policy making, like for example in deep tech, you announced 8,000 crores in the National Quantum Mission. It's lying unused for the last 2 years. You don't have the luxury of time to catch up. Be it AI, you have announced. Now Meti says, I'll buy 10,000 GPUs. Go and ask them. They don't know how to use it. You talk about democratizing 10,000 GPUs. Please understand, Zuckerberg has ordered 350,000 GPUs, right? The kind of technology trajectory, each and every place that I go, they all are in private acceptance. But publicly, we are still found wanting, and there is a lot that needs to be done. We have a lot to catch up. I think Modi has to be here for us for another 25 years if we really need to reach somewhere. Otherwise, our strike rates are good, but our run rate was very dismal in the first 50, 60 years. So,
all right. Fair enough. Mithali, also getting you into the telecast, and when we talk about manufacturing, which has increased marginally as compared to the other figures that have been put out by the government, but once again the focus has been on providing the incentives or encouraging investors, the FDI, to come into the country. Because I'll put out the numbers again. The PLI schemes, there has been an investment worth 123 crores. There have been 8 lakh jobs that have been created by way of the PLI schemes that have been launched, that have been executed. And then, of course, the 57% increase in FDI that has come into the country in the last 10 years. These are remarkable figures, but when we do a comparison of a country with a 1.4 crore population, are we in proportion to the population versus the investments that have been put in with the schemes that have been launched and the results that have been garnered therein?
So absolutely, thanks a lot for bringing me into the conversation and into this discussion. I want to highlight, some of the very good achievements and also what are, our ensuing challenges on the manufacturing front. So firstly, I think the biggest achievement that we have achieved as a country is that in 2023, our manufacturing sector GDP growth rate increased to 10%. And Megha, why is this such an important thing? Is because when I was growing up as a student, in all our textbooks, we were taught India has missed the bus on the secondary sector, and all our hopes for growth are now pinned on the tertiary sector. Because, in economics, we always study structural transformation, that you move from agriculture to manufacturing and then to services. And everyone says that India has leapfrogged from agriculture to services. But, through the last 10 years, and why it's important to keep on doing this, our manufacturing sector for a long time has been fraught with regulatory issues, with, corruption issues, with guidelines and standards that don't work. Now we have brought in ease of doing business. We have brought in, a new regulatory regime in the last 10 years, which has simplified approvals, which has simplified, even a small signature for a SME, for a small business to get, one license was such a big challenge, and today it's being done online in a matter of days. So these achievements are not small, and they are evident in that number of the 10% growth rate in manufacturing that was seen last year. And if we can replicate that performance over even 5 years, it will put us in a completely different global categorization on manufacturing. Second is FDI, which you pointed out. But why FDI is important is because of what is happening with exports. A lot of companies are not only coming to India to manufacture domestically. It's not only your and my smartphone which is being manufactured in India. It is also that it is being exported from India to other parts of the world. And this brings us much needed foreign currencies and improves our foreign exchange positions and improves our balance of payments and our overall global standing in the global value chains that are being established across the world. So this new phenomenon of make in India and export from India, which now even Ford is doing. Ford had shut down
Yeah.
its factory, but it's restarting the factory. The third
Okay.
point I want to highlight, sorry, I'll just complete. The third point I want to highlight is around the fact that we are setting up logistics and industrial infrastructure, which is going to give us a very strong basis for manufacturing growth in the next 30 years. The PM Gati Shakti program, the fact that you have industrial urban linkages, you have an urban center coming up, and around that you have industrial development coming up. This is a long-term strategy, which I think, Make in India has laid the foundation for it.
Okay. Okay. I also have with me Sudhir Krishna. Thank you very much for joining us. He is the Secretary of Urban Development and Chairman Committee on Standards for Smart Cities. So how important a role do smart cities play in the Make in India scheme, the initiative that had been launched by the government 10 years ago?
Thank you very much for inviting me at the outset. And I would like to compliment the government on achieving this milestone of 10 years. And I think a lot of credit has to go to the cities also, because, and of course, the industrial estates and hubs that have come up. And I think cities have developed a lot, but a lot of work has to be done in the cities also to attract more business, more investment. Our infrastructure in the cities has to improve, the quality of air, the quality of water, the quality of roads, and in general, a lot of it, because suddenly there is an influx of activities, in migration of people because of the economic activities. People are coming to cities, and so city planning is required. More and more investment is required in city planning also. So Smart City Mission has given an idea as to how to make the cities work better, more efficiently, using the modern technologies, using the information and communication technology, weapons, Digital India mission. All tools are available now. Now it is for the cities to make good plans and make the cities more livable. That will attract more investment. Otherwise, we have more opportunity now, because people are not, the world at large is not very keen, enthusiastic about making further investment in China. There are places like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and a good part of Africa. There is a lot of mess, social and environmental mess going on. So there is a good opportunity. They are looking up to India being a democracy and kind of stability also around. So if we maintain social harmony and if we maintain the cities, good health, it's very much important. City planning, city management, responsive governance, all those things will, I'm sure investment will go up by several fold further. What we have seen is one level, 3-4 notches it will go up. And lastly, I would say that quality of education and skills also. Of course, we have Skill India mission, no doubt. But the quality of skill, if it can upscale to the level of requirement of the international market and the type of investment we are expecting, it will get upscaled. There is no, because the population is declining in the countries, European countries, Japan, Korea, all those countries which were the manufacturing hub before, their population is declining. They don't get students in their universities. That's why they are attracting Indian or any other country. India is having large population, English speaking population, so many of them are comfortable also with Indians for very variety of reasons, and so therefore they are not having the capacity to manufacture, as much. Human capacity is simply not there, and consumption also. We have got a huge consumption base also. So manufacture here, sell here. What can be better, what can be a better? Except that environment of manufacturing should be improved further. Definitely we will be, still on the top of the world in not so far away in future.
Okay. Dr. Kohli, breaking down the various segments and fields that we are discussing, I would also want to touch upon the semiconductor industry, and there have been lakhs of crores of rupees that at this point of time are being invested by the government in building the fabrication plants, in aligning and signing memorandums of understanding and setting up industries, setting up these plants in particularly the southern part of the country, and of course in Uttar Pradesh as well. How do you see the growth trajectory of the semiconductor industry in our country? It's a long gestation period. We are already lagging behind when it comes to international standards. Will we be able to catch up on it in a small period of time and perhaps then become a global semiconductor manufacturing hub in the future?
Well, Megha, I think there's a very bright future lying ahead of us for semiconductor. 1.5 lakh crore is the quantum of investment which has been committed. 76,000 crores is what government has committed. There's already an incentive scheme there, a special incentive scheme for semiconductors. And I think, the best part of semiconductor, Megha, is that we saw an opportunity in crisis. During COVID, when the world came to a standstill, when there were no laptops, there were no tablets, the cars had a waiting of more than 1 year, and people were found wanting for the basic needs of life. These have become basic needs now. I mean, a semiconductor chip is part and parcel of our life. You can probably survive not having a couple of meals. But what happens if a mobile is taken away from you? I think you probably won't be able to survive for an hour. So I think the opportunity in crisis was seen there, and then the Prime Minister led this whole mission. And today we have several units coming up. There are challenges in semiconductor. I'll pick up the lead from what Mr. Krishna said, like skill development is a very important aspect. I think that is one of the challenges for the Make in India initiative. I also consider it as a challenge because the education system in our country is not linked to the industry. We have an academic part of the education, and there is a professional. After 18 years of study, you ask a student कि आप आगे क्या करोगे? When you finish your BA, BCom, BSc or your graduation, a person is asked, what are you going to do ahead? So unlike countries like US, where you are prepared for the industry, once you finish your graduation, you don't need to ask anybody, what am I going to do? You are picked up by the industry. So I think that bridge has to be created. And that is where that has to be carried forward by way of a very, very efficient skill development mechanism. So I think we have to move away from this ITI model which the government has created ages ago. And we should move in a very comprehensive manner, on a very targeted manner as far as skill development is concerned. Then ease of doing business, Megha, I remember you spoke about it briefly in the beginning. I feel we may be 60 something on ease of doing business. We've come a long way. We were more than double this, in terms of the index. But there is still a lot to be done, because if you move away from the towns, you move to tier 2, tier 3 cities, you still find certain part of Inspector Raj being there, despite the fact indirect taxes has come and GST, 15, 16 taxes have been consolidated in GST, but there is still a lot to be done. Labor reforms are also required, because I think the whole labor system in our country is still not completely streamlined. Major part of our labor is from the unorganized sector. In the organized sector, you have these labor unions. You go to these communist ruled states where you find these labor unions being dominated by the communists. I think the labor reforms is the need of the hour. And a very important aspect, Megha, I would like to make, we were speaking of startup system on your channel. I've spoken about that so many times. But startups, unfortunately, most of them come from the tech field. I'll be the happiest person the day more of our startups come from manufacturing. And when I spoke to startups and asked them that why didn't you pursue manufacturing as a road, they said that the valuations that we get in tech model, we do not get in manufacturing. So I think government, it may be a very casual statement to make and a very vested one, to where somebody was looking at making money from valuations. But there is a very strong message, Megha, which comes out of the statement that government has to look that wherever there is a manufacturing happening, wherever somebody thinks of manufacturing, especially the youth, 65% of our population is below 35 years of age. So whenever a young person, whenever a youth thinks of setting up a manufacturing unit, I think government should handhold, come forward and make sure that his business grows the way it grows in a tech model. You will suddenly find that we will get catapulted to the next level, Megha.
Okay, Mitali, talking about the manufacturing sector, once again, which are these industries, particularly when we talk about cement and we talk about steel, we also talk about, shipbuilding, which is at this point of time at a very nascent stage in our country, and with the number of ports that are being built at a breakneck speed, that is going to be the next natural step that is going to happen. Which are these other industries for making India into a manufacturing hub?
Right. So I think, Megha, what is very critical, and I think this is taking off from what I said previously and also from the other, co-panelists, is about talking about climate resilience and sustainability. See, when we are talking about investing in new cities, when we are talking about investing in industrial development, and when we are talking about manufacturing, all these sectors are hugely, we have to have, actions and investments in mitigation, adaptation, and resilience actions, which, deal with the impact of climate change that is impending, like heat waves, droughts, floods, etc. Right? So now we need to therefore prioritize green industries. So I believe that green industries like electric vehicles, like renewable energy are going to be two of the biggest growing. But we can also see, manufacturing of electric vehicles already catching up. But even when we look at other green industries, like even hydrogen, green hydrogen, these are industries in which I believe over the next decade, we'll see the maximum amount of investment coming in. The second set of industries which will be very critical may not actually be that much focused on heavy manufacturing, but what we call as light manufacturing, powered by AI and powered by digitization. And the third is around green logistics and automated logistics. So we might be seeing, like for example, warehousing, storage, etc., where we see a huge amount of, technology driven warehousing equipment coming in and automation coming into those logistics enterprises and logistics facilities, which are then driving growth from that perspective. So, and as Dr. Kohli very rightly said, in order for all of these industries to be job creating industries, we need a lot more upskilling for our youth so that they can work with the technology, with the automation, with the AI, with the, tools that are going to inevitably come into these industries, not be replaced by these tools, but work with these tools to improve their productivity and take it to a point where they can actually earn more than if they were an unskilled laborer. Because that job will be replaced.
Okay, all right. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, right points made. Are we at a stage where our electronics, our electric vehicles are going to be not just be at par with the Koreans and the Chinese and their very competitively priced and exceptional quality of e-vehicles that are being sold across the globe, and India is no exception? Are we at par, and can we really become an electric vehicle hub in the world?
I wouldn't want to go specifically into the electric vehicles. We have to understand one thing fundamental about India's manufacturing abilities. You are manufacturing somebody else's products. There is hardly any product that belongs to you that you manufacture. Make in India is about manufacturing your own stuff, grassroots from scratch. And how much of this manufacturing actually belongs to that category? You ask yourself, you will find, you'll be ashamed of that numbers. That is what we need to address. Actually, in the name of Make in India, 90% of Make in India is assembled in India. Right? You are making a large number of iPhones. But believe you me, Even the KFC packed up from Russia when they disagreed, when the conflict began. And India is an aspiring superpower which is knocking the number 3 position in the world. So very soon we are going to be at loggerheads with the Americans, with the Chinese, and with the other European powers, because you are a significant economic giant and your economy cannot be on the mercy of somebody else's technology. That is what we need to invest in. So when I tell that I need to concentrate on manufacturing, that needs to be solely based on your ability to invent, innovate, and create products that will compete. Today, when you're talking about electric vehicles, the battery comes from somewhere, the raw materials comes from somewhere else, even the basic technology like battery management system, that comes from abroad. What is it that you're doing? Even in drones, what are you doing? You are only assembling. The controllers come from somewhere.
No,
just the body frames is what you're making. That needs to change. That can only change when your skills change. I do agree to the point that the skill levels are pathetically poor, and that even in IITs today, they are not that level of employability that used to be once upon a time, because things have started easing out and we have started paying price for it. So there is a lot of radical reforms that we need at the education level and at the manufacturing level, if we have to really call ourselves a powerhouse.
Sudhir Krishna, would you like to add to that again, the roadmap, the blueprint for the next 10 years, what should be the focus areas?
Absolutely. I think along with the industrialization, industrial development, the quality of life of average Indian citizen should improve. Now, what is happening is that you see the job potential, how it is increasing is very much doubtful, because the placement levels are going down. Even in IIMs and IITs also, the placement levels are not as glorious as they used to be some years ago. So it is a paradox. On one hand, our overall GDP is growing, manufacturing activities are growing, but this employability, even Cognizance, they also, it came in paper that thousands of posts they advertised, and they few lakh rupees, 2-3 lakh rupees salary per year package they offered, I say, of course, not for non-engineering graduates, but what is 2-3 lakh rupee package, which means that they're a big company, and big companies offering like that. Smaller companies are even lower, but people are somehow managing because of, people living conditions are such that people can manage living in filth, living in slum, and they go to work. So they don't, so improving quality of life is very important for average citizen. We have to find out what is happening, and if you see urban development, on one hand, the luxury apartments are the call of the day. Today you don't find normal housing coming up in big number. Apartments, crores of rupees. So what about the common man? It is because of lopsided. That has to be resolved.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.